Good morning. Hello, howdy, hi. Aaron Boster here, broadcasting live on a gorgeous March 28th. I turned my camera on about a half an hour, but before we get rocking and rolling with this Ask Me Anything multiple sclerosis Q&A, I love to turn my camera on a little bit early just to allow the members of this global growing online village to get together and hang out. So I'll give you guys a second to jump on board. Hey, Pink Meadows. Great to see you. Thanks for being here. Life Crisis 68's in the house. Good morning. Welcome. Hey, Tracy. What's going on, SM? Bluthton's in the house, one of our amazing moderators. Good morning, Sterling. Javier Rodriguez is in the house. This is fantastic. Good morning. Hey, Tam. Hey, Michelle. How are you? Even so it as well. Another amazing moderators jumped online. As you guys jump online, please share where you're jumping on from. Just like J-Mac shared, he's coming in from London. What's your weather like in London, my friend? Good morning, Luna Blue Eyes. Good morning, Karen Tweed. Great to see you today. Hello, Rainey. Good to see you. Texas is in the house. Hello, Sarah. Welcome, welcome. It's fantastic to see you all today. I am so excited to be here. Joe Siders, one of our amazing moderators and an amazing fella, is in the house. Joe, thanks for being here. We've got Chicago representing. Warsaw is in the house. Is that Warsaw, Poland or Warsaw, Texas? We've got Brownsville, Texas in the house. We've got Greensboro representing. St. Louis is in the house. What's going on? Norway representing. That's amazing. Thank you for being here. Yeah, it's kind of sunny and chilly over here as well. Art Betts, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, everyone. Ireland representing. I love that. That's an interesting question, Oliver. Let's wait until we go live and I'll start to tackle those questions. Sarah's got the right idea. You got to get some water and some coffee. Warsaw, Poland. That's where my family is from, Warsaw, Poland. They fled in 1914. I get to give a presentation in Warsaw a couple years back, and it was amazing to walk through the streets. In fact, I can tell you exactly the weekend because it was your 100th anniversary. I was there that weekend. It was wild. Houston, Texas is in the house. This is fantastic. Good morning. Rommel is in the house. What's going on? Denise representing Tennessee. Puerto Rico representing. This is fantastic. Good morning, everyone. Aaron Boster here, representing the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis and Single Point Healthcare. Coming live, this is our March Ask Me Anything live stream. I'm super excited. I'll be turning my camera on at the top of the hour at 11 a.m. sharp, and I'll be answering your questions live. And I thought if there was interest, I might do a didactic lecture today as well. Philadelphia is in the house. What's the weather like over in Philly? Manchester in the house. UK, it's good to see you. Makes me think of Manchester United. Vietnam. I don't know that we've ever had someone on from Vietnam before. Thank you so much for being here. That's amazing. Paige is in the house. New Jersey representing. Sweden is in the house. What's going on? Michigan, go blue. This is fantastic, guys. Thank you for being here. I'm going to step away from the mic so that I can grab some water and a fresh cup of coffee. I recommend that you do the same. As you jump online, make sure you're jumping on and sharing where you're coming from. It's awesome to go back through the chat and see where you are all amassing from. One of our amazing moderators, Joe Sider, is helping out, showing you a link in the chat. If you click that link, let me see if I can put it up there. If you click that link, it'll take you to an opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. It's called the Boster Corner, and it's a monthly newsletter where we kind of share the latest and greatest of MS research, what's going on at the Boster Center, and it'll tell you when I go live so you can find exactly the time and location when I'm going to be broadcasting. Now, like I said, I'll be right back. Make nice to your neighbors, say hello, howdy, hi, and I will see you in a few. I'm back. Hello, everyone. That's amazing. There's 90 of you that are here right now. Thank you very, very much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Aaron Boster here, representing the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis and Single Point Healthcare. We're caring for families impacted by MS literally from around the globe. In just about 15 minutes, we're going to turn my camera on and I'm going to go live answering your questions. This is the March Ask Me Anything Multiple Sclerosis Q&A. As you guys jump online, thank you for sharing where you're jumping on from. It's so awesome to go back through the chat afterwards and see where all the members of this growing global online village have amassed. It really makes me feel really, really good. Thank you all for being here. Again, we're going to go live in about 15 minutes. Please keep in mind that when we start answering questions, I can't answer specifics for you. I can't diagnose you or treat you on the interwebs. I need to be able to see you in clinic to do that. So make sure that the questions are generalizable so that everybody can benefit from the answer. Okay, what's going on, Ben? Great to see you. A wonderful moderator has joined us. If you guys see a moderator, tell them hi or say thank you to them. It's so helpful. They volunteer to keep the chat clean and to identify questions and throw them up so that I can see them more easily. It really makes the live stream successful. So I'm grateful for all these people that are helping me out. Thank you, guys. DC in the house. Hello, Lisa. Great to see you. Fort Myers, Florida. What's your weather like in Fort Myers, Teresa? Calgary is in the house. Lacey's out in Montana, but originally from Florida. What's going on, Jenny B? Hot and steamy, I hear that. Welcome, Sherry. Welcome, welcome. Let me put a question in the chat for you guys. All right, let's see here. Okay, guys, I threw a question in the chat. Please take a second and click your response. I was thinking of giving a small didactic lecture today, but I like to get a sense of the room, what you guys think. Would you like to have me give a small didactic lecture, or should we just stick to our traditional Q&A format? Click your answer, and the winners will have the day. Minnesota representing. That's really nice of you. I like that name, Redneck Garage Cooking. Cape Town, South Africa. That's on my bucket list, my friend. All right, there's 41 votes, but there's 87 of you that are online right now. So if you haven't yet voted, do me a kind favor and click the button. Hello, Powell in Warsaw. I think you're the second folk to join us from Warsaw today. That's amazing. Oh, we'll definitely do both, Joe. It's not one or the other. All right. I think even though I wasn't clear in my question, the sense is that we should do a didactic and a Q&A. If that's the way we're feeling, I am down with that. I've got a couple different ideas in mind. Sunny Arizona. I was out in Arizona a couple weeks ago, literally overnight, but I got to go for a hike with my dad. It was really cool. All right, a little of both it is, Ellen. Arkansas is in the house. That's fantastic. Welcome, welcome. We're going to turn the cameras on, and I'm going to start taking your questions live at the top of the hour at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got England. And where in England are you? Bluthton, I'm still working on it. Thank you very much for asking. I'm struggling with a draft right now. Manchester, excellent. All right, we locked in that question. Prepare your guys' questions. We're going to start to answer them at the top of the hour. This is Aaron Boster, representing the Boster Center for MS. I'm so excited for you to be here with me today. Redneck Garage Cooking, you are 100% correct. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when allopathic doctors like myself say stupid stuff like it doesn't matter what you eat, because it absolutely does matter what you eat. Paige, that's great news. Congratulations. Karen, very often, yes. Diet is key, Alan. That's exactly right. IBD is unfortunately not all that uncommon. Haha, ça c'est super. Bienvenue. Tout le monde est sympathique ici, c'est pas de problème. Amy, you just type the question in the chat, and then one of the moderators will pick it up and throw it up in the air so I can see it, or if I see it, I'll answer it, and we'll just knock them out as they come along. Hey, Chuck, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Again, I'm so excited for you to be here with me. There's 99 of you that have gotten here for the pre-show. That's amazing. We're going to turn the cameras on and kick off our March Ask Me Anything live stream. Once a month now, we've been turning on the camera and I tackle your questions live. It's an awesome opportunity for me. I love this. It's so much fun to get to hang out with you. I'm really glad that you're here right now. "10 minutes until we go live." There's 102 of you that have jumped online. That's amazing. Thank you. Well, Chuck, you're in the right place, partner. Texas Girl, that is a really good question. Please ask that question when we turn the cameras on. It's great to see you too. Do you guys like this lo-fi, this Middle Eastern lo-fi beat? I think it's really fun. Oh, Even So It As Well. That's so nice of you. So Even So It As Well is an amazing gal with actually a really great YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen her YouTube channel, you're missing out. You definitely want to check it out. She's helping remind you guys that you can click that link and sign up for the Boster Corner, which is a monthly newsletter where we'll send out sort of the latest and greatest updates on what's going on at the Boster Center and what's going on in MS research. And I also always include where I'm going to be online next, when I'm going to present, whether that be at a live presentation or one of these Ask Me Anything deals. So if you'd like to check that out, you can click that link. It's free to sign up for the Boster Corner. You can turn it off or unsubscribe whenever you want. And again, thank you for throwing that up there, madam. Morning, Amy Malone. What's going on, Nicole? Hey, Eric. I spent a week in Gothenburg, Sweden at an ectomist meeting. You have a beautiful city. Some good questions popping up. That's chilly for Tennessee. 8 minutes until we go live. in Germany. I attended an Ectrums in Berlin as well. Even so, as well as reminding you guys that we're going to kick it off taking your questions live at the top of the hour. If you're just joining us, you missed a survey where we asked whether we would A, just do a Q&A, or B, do a Q&A and a didactic lecture. And B won the day. The votes were in favor of both. So we'll be taking your questions, and at some point during the hour of power, I'll stop and talk to you a little bit about some MS topics of interest. Sure, Joe, I can do that. Barb, yes, I'll be attending Ectrums in Toronto. I'm really looking forward to going. Yeah, this year I'll be attending Ectrums and the CMSC. Seven minutes until we go live. I'm throwing up a question in the chat. Let me get it typed up. The chatting questions are anonymous, so nobody can link the answer back to you. But if you have MS, I'm just curious how many DMTs, disease-modifying therapies, you've been on in the past. None, 0, 1, 2, or 3+. If you're comfortable answering, please share. You, of course, don't have to if that's not something you want to share. Marty, that's a great question. I've made a couple YouTube videos on that topic. Chuck says all of them. All right, guys, we have 5 minutes until we go live. When we get down to about 3 minutes, you know what we do. We're going to flame up the chat, and that sends a signal to the YouTube algorithm to let it know that we're getting ready to rock and roll, that we're pumped, and to let others know that we're about to get started. So identify the flame emoji on your keyboard and get ready to flame it up. Not just yet, though. Missouri's in the house. What's going on? Hey, Polly, how are you? A lot of questions popping up about weight loss drugs. We'll definitely tackle that. Yeah, Ben's getting ready. Michelle is in the house. Grove City, what's going on? Good to see you, madam. I hope that you're doing well. Sheila Berry's in the house. If you haven't answered the polling question yet, please take a chance to do so. There's been 81 votes so far. I'll leave it open for another minute before we'll shut it down. Croatia's in the house. I spent an amazing vacation in Croatia earlier this year. What a gorgeous, gorgeous country, and a lot of really nice people. All right, I'm going to close up this chat. You got a few more seconds to answer, guys. 3, 2, I'm closing the question. All right, the polling question's been shut down. Let's take a look at that answer together. We have 4 minutes until we go live. Some good questions popping up, guys. Hold those questions for 3 more minutes. Now, there's 3 minutes left, and you know what that means. Help me out by flaming up the chat. So show me some flames. That's exactly right. Yeah, you got it. I'm going to try to flame up that chat for the next 3 minutes. Sterling's got the right idea. Show some love. Just spam that flame button, guys. Woo-wee! There you go. There you go. Follow Ben's lead. Polly's got the right idea. Hit that flames. Come on now. Basketballs might work as well, I guess, but I was thinking flames. Tamara's in the house with flames. Thank you, Lavender. I love that. Rainbows aren't bad either. But let's try to flame up that chat, yo. This is fantastic. There's 137 of you that have jumped online. I'm hopeful that every single one of you is just going to flame up the chat, show some love in the chat, let the algorithm know that we're here and that we're going to get started and that you're pumped. We're going to educate, we're going to empower, we're going to energize, try to make MS boring so that you can live your best life. Love those flames, guys. Keep that going. Hey, John, good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Show some flames in the chat, John. We're just gearing up, getting the YouTube algorithm to wake up, recognize that we're here. Aaron Boster here, super stoked to go live in just 2 short minutes. You know how we do it. Flame up that chat for me. We'll turn the camera on at 11 sharp, and I'll start tackling your questions about multiple sclerosis in this March Ask Me Anything Live. We've got 2 short minutes. Don't stop the flames. Show that love, yo. Get a couple firemen in here. 1 minute until we go live. Don't stop the flames, guys. You got it. You're doing great. There's 151 of you. I can feel the love. Don't stop now. Flame up that chat. We've got less than a minute left. Woo-wee! Awesome. Look at that. Flames galore. It's hot in here. That's fantastic. Don't stop. We just got seconds to go. Heck yeah. Look at it. You guys are awesome. Spam that flame. The seconds are kicking down. We are pumped. We are ready. Paula, you're doing great. Don't sweat it. It's time. Hi. Good morning, everyone. Hello, howdy, hi. Aaron Boster here. It's March 28th, and this is our March Ask Me Anything live stream. I'm representing the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis and Single Point Healthcare. And we are stoked to bring you this Ask Me Anything Live, where you're going to throw your MS questions in the chat, and I'm going to do my best to try to answer them on the fly. We've been doing an Ask Me Anything Live monthly now since the Boster Center opened up way back in 2020. And as long as y'all keep showing up, I am too, and I am excited to answer your questions. Now, I always like to start the chat before I turn the camera on for about a half an hour so that everybody can get ready and get comfortable in their seats. And I threw up a polling question, and I asked if there would be an interest in a didactic lecture today. And there was. And so I'm excited about that. And so I plan to talk a little bit about my treatment strategy for how I like to manage MS in clinic. Some of you have been in clinic with me, and this may sound familiar, but some of you maybe not. And I always think it's a good idea to have top of mind sort of the 10,000-foot view of how we want to manage MS. So partway through the chat, I'll do a quick didactic lecture on that topic. But in the meantime, let's kick it off with some questions. So throw your question in the chat. Please remember that I can't diagnose or treat you on the interwebs. Please make your question generalizable so that everybody can benefit from it. So this first question is an important one, and it is, how does stress affect MS? And stress makes MS worse. There's a paper, the senior author was Tiffany Braley, who is an important person to me because she was one of my co-residents when we were in training together at University of Michigan. She's a professor at University of Michigan, and she participated in a research paper where they looked at the impact of stress, and there was evidence that stress can make MS worse. Now, I'm really glad that there's a paper published on that topic because whereas almost anyone with MS will recognize that in themselves, when they're under significant stress, their symptoms intensify, I've had arguments with doctors that say that's not true. And so having some body of research where I can grab a paper and shake it and say, yaha, I think is very, very useful. Now, that sucks that stress makes MS worse because life is stressful. And one of my pet peeves is when dumb doctors say stuff like, well, remove the stress, honey, as if like, you could like cut the stress off or something, which I don't know how to do. Managing stress is a really good idea when dealing with a chronic condition like multiple sclerosis. And I think that adhering to stress management is actually one of the 5 things that I want you to do to make the disease boring. So we'll actually come back to that a little bit later during that didactic lecture. That was a very good question. Thank you for asking it. All right, let me try to find another question. If I don't get to yours, please don't be cross. I will go through the chat and I pull all those questions out, and sometimes I use them to make videos, or I'll just answer a bunch of questions in a catch-up video. So yours won't be missed. So this is a sad question. I lost my MS buddy with PPMS this week. So I'm so sorry for your loss. It had affected his lungs and his ability to breathe. Is that common? No, I don't think that's terribly common. Now, what may occur, someone sometimes, particularly in advanced MS, can have difficulty maintaining it's called their pulmonary toilet, like coughing stuff up and being able to adequately expand their lungs. And if they got weak enough, that could become problematic. But nonetheless, I'm really sorry for your loss. All right, let's look for another question. Manuel says, what's your take on homeopathic medicine? I've heard some claims that it can cure MS. That's bullshit. That's my take on that comment. No, that's not true. I wish it was true. I would love for that to be true, but that's not true. That's called quackery, and it's dangerous because it sells false hope. And I think there's probably nothing worse than false hope. Now, homeopathy is a silly, arcane concept, which has scientifically been disproven. What you do in homeopathy, the idea is that like treats like. So this was an ancient Middle Ages type of idea, where if, let's say that ragweed caused a problem for you, you would dilute down ragweed below Avogadro's number, which means there's actually no ragweed left, it's just water. And then you would take that as a medicine to make your body get used to it. And that's nonsense and it doesn't work. But as it relates to MS, there's no evidence that homeopathic medicines would help or cure MS. So I really want to be very clear about that. Now, just because there's no evidence, I doesn't mean that you should never ever do it. Let me explain what I mean. I'm an allopathic doctor, so I went to like MD school, right? And so they taught me certain stuff, and there's certain stuff they didn't teach me. So stuff they didn't teach me, we call that alternative medicine. And we don't have a lot of education about alternative medicine. Now, I think I can prove to you that homeopathic medicine doesn't work, but I can still apply my 3 rules to alternative medicine to your comment about homeopathic medicine. So I am asked often, is it okay to take this alternative medicine, this supplement, this remedy? And oftentimes it falls outside of the stuff that I studied. And so I came up with 3 guiding rules when someone asks me something like that. And homeopathy or homeopathic remedy would fall within this context. So number 1, it can't be too expensive. And only you know for your family what's too expensive. So I can't help you in that regard. Number 2, it can't be dangerous. And I feel very confident that homeopathic cures are not dangerous because it's just water. Number 3, it can't be instead of something that I know that works. So for example, if you said, hey, Dr. Boster, I got really excited about this homeopathic thing I read about, and I would like to take it in addition to my MS medicine, I would say, okay. If you said, hey, Dr. B, I got excited about this homeopathic medicine, and I'm going to stop all my medicines and just do homeopathy, I would be concerned about that. So that's my take on homeopathy. Thank you for asking. Anything over the counter that works as good as Botox? No. So botulinum toxin is one of the most toxic substances on Earth, actually. And if you've ever heard of like lockjaw, it's from Clostridium. It's a bacteria that makes this toxin, and we can harvest that and we can purify it, and we can inject an itsy bitsy tiny amount into a muscle, and we can poison the muscle a little. And that can be super, super useful for things like spasticity. So let's pretend that like your bicep is contracted and it's really stiff and you can't get it to relax. You could Botox it and it would relax the muscle of the bicep. And the nice thing about Botox, if you Botox your bicep, it has no impact in your brachioradialis, no impact on your tricep. It doesn't spread anywhere. So you can treat focal spasticity very, very accurately. Now, there's absolutely no over-the-counter which would get close. Now, if we broaden the question, and what you're maybe asking is there anything over-the-counter that can help with spasticity? Because Botox is a treatment for spasticity. There is something that's over-the-counter that can help with spasticity. And I'm not giving you medical advice and telling you to go out and buy it. I'm just sharing that magnesium helps a lot of my patients with spasticity. So there's lots of different flavors of magnesium. And oftentimes I recommend magnesium oxide. But I think any of the magnesiums might work for this purpose. And I have a lot of patients that can take a magnesium, say, before bed, and it decreases their spasms, their cramps, their Charlie horses, things like that. And that's over the counter. CBD and THC is it's not really over the counter because you have to go to a dispensary. But those can also help spasticity. So that was a good question. Thank you. Let's take another look. All right, so this is a question, very interested in rewiring neuroplasticity. And I want to give a shout out to my friend Gretchen Helly. Dr. Helly is an amazing neuro-PT. She specializes in multiple sclerosis. She's brilliant. She has a fantastic web presence. Missing Link, MSING Link is her program. She's written a really good book. And she talks a lot about neuroplasticity. So if you would like to hear some riveting discussion about neuroplasticity, definitely check her out. She's got a great YouTube channel. And when you think of neuroplasticity, it's not actually like magic, right? So it breaks down like this. The nervous system is not static. It's not like made of stone. It's actually dynamic, and the wiring of the nervous system can literally rewire. Now, it's not awesome at it, but it can do it. And if there's a connection between your brain and your limb, right? So like if there's a connection, brain, spinal cord, nerve down to my hand, as long as that connection exists, we can do things to strengthen that connection, to make that connection stronger. Think about like making a wire thicker. We can enhance it. And the way to do that is to find a movement which stimulates that, and then to do it a lot, right? So that's really the underpinnings of neuroplasticity. I'll give you a non-MS example, playing the piano. So I do not play the piano, but I'm really impressed with people that do. And I've watched a lot of people play the piano. I watch my children take piano lessons, for example. And when you're learning to play the piano and trying to make sense of what you're doing, in the beginning, it's really hard to hit the keys properly. And as you get better and as your hands become faster, you haven't actually strengthened your hand. You haven't changed like the physiology of your hand. You change the physiology of your brain. Actually, the back of your brain, the cerebellum, gets enhanced, and you're practicing neuroplasticity. You're strengthening the connections of your cerebellum, which then allow you to play the piano. And that's just an example of neuroplasticity. So how do you participate in neuroplasticity? Well, the easiest way to get started would be to meet with a physical therapist, identify the things that you want to work on. Let's say that you don't walk normally and you have a hitch in your giddy up, right? So your walking is abnormal. You can work with a physical therapist to have them train you to walk in a normal fashion, and then practicing that helps strengthen that pathway. That is neuroplasticity. So that's a really great question, and I appreciate you asking it. I also appreciate the fact that there's almost 220 of you that have gotten online, and that's really, really cool. So thank you all for joining me. If you've just joined me, my name's Aaron Boster. This is our March Ask Me Anything live stream, and I'm going to take a couple more questions before we start doing a didactic lecture. But in the interest of keeping things sassy, let's change up. Can you guys hear me okay? I just want to make sure my sound didn't cut out. Somebody let me know if you can hear my sound in the chat. Are we good? I'm going to assume nobody's saying can't hear you, so I hope that we're good. Okay. All right, let's take a couple. Good, excellent. Let's take a couple other questions here. So Bluetooth asks a great question here. The question is, can MS pain occur on the sciatic nerve? If so, does sciatic and MS nerve pain present similar or different from each other? So that's a good question. And the quick answer is it's confusing. So if you have damage to a peripheral nerve, well, let me back up. When we neurologists talk about the nervous system, we divide it into sections. We have the central nervous system and then the peripheral nervous system. So we call the central nervous system the brain and the spinal cord. And we call the peripheral nervous system all the nerves, including the sciatic nerve, right? And if you have damage to the spinal cord and that causes pain, and that's most commonly what occurs in the setting of multiple sclerosis, that's called myelopathic pain, M-Y-E-L-O, myelo, which is Greek for spinal cord. So that's myelopathic pain, pain coming from the spinal cord. If you have damage to a peripheral nerve, like the sciatic nerve or some other nerve, the neurologist word is neuropathy. And that specifically talks about pain coming from the nerve. All right, so words matter. And what I'm trying to say is damage to the sciatic nerve can cause pain down your leg, and damage to your spinal cord can cause pain down your leg. Now, Bluthon's question is actually eloquent because that's not the entirety of the question. The question is, can you tell the two apart? And you can. The way that you can tell them apart is the pattern. And so the sciatic nerve has a particular pattern. Typically, it's your tush and then the back of your leg past your knee. MS pain doesn't typically have that sciatic pattern. If there's concerns, there's testing that we can do to try to sort it out. So, for example, we could get MRIs to look at not only the spinal cord, but the nerves coming off the spinal cord to see if they're being pinched. And then we can also do an EMG to clarify, is it sciatica? Is it the L5-S1 nerve that's causing some serious ouchie yaya? Or is it coming from the spinal cord? And that's the way that we can sort that out. So that was a great question, Bluth, and thank you for asking it. Now, Texas Girl asks what might be like the $1 gazillion question, because this is a very, very hot topic in MS. And I am excited to talk about GLP-1s and MS, but only after the MS Water Challenge. So you know how this goes. I'm a little thirsty, and when I drink, you drink. So let's drink up. MS Water Challenge, guys. Oh, that's really good. Delicious. All right, so GLP-1s and MS. Let's talk about that. GLP-1s are a medicine which facilitates weight loss. They were initially invented for diabetics, and they've subsequently become available for weight loss, and they're becoming increasingly accessible to the masses. Up until very recently, they were only available through an injection, subcutaneous injection, so like a little prick under the skin, not like a harpoon. And more recently, they even have some GLP-1s that are oral, like a pill. GLP-1s do two things. One thing they do is they slow gut motility, which in English means you poop less because like food and poop move through your gut slower. And that's actually something to keep in mind because many people with MS also have slowed gut motility. Like a lot of my patients are really constipated. So if you start a GLP-1, you might make the constipation more intense. And so that doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. It just means that there's some precautions that you might want to take with, gut hygiene. The second thing that the GLP-1 does is it changes the neurotransmitters in a way that you become satiated, you fill up and don't feel hungry very, very quickly. So because you're just not hungry and because you're not moving food through your gut, you end up not eating as much and people lose a lot of weight, which is exciting. And there's a lot of really good things about that. And there's a couple caveats and a couple pitfalls and things that I want to talk with you about. So, is it safe for someone with MS to take a GLP-1? We think that it is. The best that we can tell, it appears that a GLP-1 doesn't have any negative impact in someone with MS. And so I like knowing that, because I don't want to give a recommendation to someone if for some reason it could make the MS worse, which it doesn't. There's even a really cool discussion ongoing amongst us MS nerds as to whether or not GLP-1s might help MS, like might help the immunology of MS. And that's a theory. It has not been studied, but that's kind of exciting to think about. And GLP-1s can help MS because of physics and physiology. Let me explain. Let's pretend that you're overweight. So let's say you're carrying 30 extra pounds on you of fat, and you have a weak left leg. It's possible that that 30 pounds is too much for that weak left leg. Or it's possible if the left leg got weaker that the extra 30 pounds would make it so that you couldn't walk. If you lost the 30 pounds, even if your leg never got stronger, you're going to be able to walk more easily. Not because your leg's stronger, but because you're carrying less weight. And that is a very, very real phenomenon that matters a whole bunch. In the past, when one of my patients needed to lose 100 pounds, it was very hard to do that through diet and exercise. And the most effective way to do that was through surgery. And it's still a very, very effective way to lose weight. But now we can use the GLP-1s. And I've had many patients use these medicines with great success. Two caveats, two very important caveats that I really want you to be thinking about before you consider taking a medicine like this. The first one is, you probably are not going to take a GLP-1 for the rest of your life. That's an assumption. But at some point, if you stop the GLP-1, two things change. Number one, you become hungry. You remove the chemical changes which made you not hungry. Suddenly, you rediscover that you're hungry. Number two, gut motility picks up. And there's a concern here. If you start a GLP-1, don't change how you eat, don't change how you think about food, just take the GLP-1 and lose a bunch of weight, and then you stop the GLP-1, but you haven't invested any energy, time, or thought into treating food differently, approaching food differently, food choices, food portions, etc. When you remove the GLP-1, there's a risk that you may regain the weight. So I want you to plan for that before you even start. Be thoughtful. It's good to learn about diet and nutrition. And some of my patients have been most successful when they lose the weight, then they take a GLP-1 less often, sort of as a maintenance. The second thing that I want to talk about is muscle. So muscles are very important. So I just finished talking about how losing fat can help you even if you have weak muscles. But when you lose weight rapidly by not eating, you lose both muscle and fat. You can lose both. And whereas like losing fat's fantastic, I really want you to maintain your muscle mass. And so if you're going to take a GLP-1, participating in some weightlifting, muscle building activity is a really, really good idea. So those are some of my opinions as it relates to MS and GLP-1. That was a great question, and thank you for asking it. Now, there's 231 of you that have jumped online, which is awesome. And as discussed earlier, I thought maybe we would do a didactic lecture. I threw out a question in the polling question in the pre-party, and the vote was yes. So let's take a few minutes and talk about an aspect of MS that I would like to share. So I'm going to change some things around and turn these flames off. Whoops, I didn't turn them off. I turned them on. Hold on. Let me try to get all the fire out of here. Okay, there. That's a little bit quieter. And let's see here. So this is what I thought we would talk about. How do you beat MS? And I don't mean this like a theory. I want to talk about what I do in our clinic at the Boster Center with each family. I want to talk through with you how I conceptually think of managing your multiple sclerosis. Now, this is an opportunity to play along. So if you want, grab a piece of paper and a pencil. I'm going to show a diagram in a second. You can copy down the diagram and take notes. And this would be something that you might be able to bring to your MS neurologist and just have an open discussion about, hey, are we hitting all of these points? You know, there's an area over here I wanted to talk to you about. So grab a paper and pencil if that's of interest to you. And I want to spend some time talking about how we approach MS care sort of from a 10,000 foot view. Now, the first thing that I think we need to do is we need to define our goal, right? So when you have a disease, typically there's a goal to treat the disease. So for example, if you have high blood pressure, then the goal is to normalize the blood pressure and protect the organs from end organ damage so that, you know, you don't have strokes and heart attacks and scary stuff. If you have diabetes, one of the goals of diabetes is to get the sugars under a good control at a low level. And I think in MS, you also want to have defined goals, right? So I have two goals in MS. My first goal is NEDA4, NEDA4. So I'll write the NEDA4, NEDA4. So what does that mean? Well, that's an acronym because I'm a nerd, and you know, we neurologists, we love to come up with acronyms. So that stands for No Evidence of Disease Activity, NEDA, No Evidence of Disease Activity. And what that means to me operationally is no more attacks. The goal is that you don't have any more attacks. The second goal is that you have no new spots on your MRI. The third goal is that your neurological examination doesn't get any worse. And the fourth goal is that your brain shrinks or atrophies at a normal rate. So that's four things, hence the term NEDA4. Why do I like NEDA4 as a definition? Is it because I can do it all the time? No. In fact, it's almost impossible to maintain someone in NEDA forever because our medicines aren't that good yet. So then why do I like that definition? I like the definition because it's honest. If you have an attack, that's not okay. And if you're on a medicine and you have an attack, that's super not okay because that's why we put you on the medicine. If you have new brain damage, if you have new spots, which is brain damage, that's not okay. If you lose a neurologic function and you don't walk the way you did last time I saw you, that's not acceptable. And I want your brain to shrink at a normal rate, like the general population, not at an accelerated rate. So I like NEDA4 because it's honest and we can tell whether or not we're doing it. And if, God forbid, we have breakthrough disease, or if, God forbid, we have a new spot, then it allows us to identify that that's violating our goal, and it allows us to have a conversation and make a change if we deem appropriate. So that's the goal. Now, I have a secondary goal also. So the primary goal is NEDA4. The secondary goal is to make the disease boring, right? And I mean that literally. MS, unfortunately, oftentimes is not very boring. It can be very, very exciting in ways that you don't like pooping your pants in the supermarket, or falling in church, or not being able to see out of your left eye. These are horrible, terrible things that are not boring. And so I want to make it boring. So those are the two goals, NEDA4 and make it boring. And I made this little graph that I'm going to throw up on the screen. And so you can tease me for my lack of PowerPoint skills, but I wanted to have a graphic just so that I could have you look at something while we were talking. Now, when I am onboarding a family into the Boster Center, very often we have a conversation where I write these three circles up on the whiteboard, and then we talk through them. Because these are three aspects of MS care that I want to do all at the same time. So like three things simultaneously. So I thought that we would kind of go through them today. So I want you to start looking in the bottom left-hand corner, that bottom left circle where it says RX attack. So RX is the doctor abbreviation for treat. You know, God forbid we wrote out all the words. That would be terrible. So treat, attack, flare, exacerbation, relapse. That's all the same thing. And I always like to start by defining an attack because sometimes it's really confusing to someone. Am I having an attack? I like to teach people what I call the 24-hour rule. All right, so I'm going to write that in the chat. The quote, 24-hour rule. And this is a rule that my mentor taught me. He used to talk to patients about this, and I do too. And it goes like this. If you have a new neurological symptom that lasts less than a day, you don't have to call me. Now, you can, but you don't need to. If you have a new neurological symptom that lasts longer than a day, now I request a phone call. Why? Because new MS disease activity is caused by inflammation, and inflammation doesn't go away in a day. I'll give you an example. Let's pretend that you socked me in my jaw and my face got all puffy. Tomorrow it's more puffy. It doesn't go away in a day, right? Because it's inflamed. When you had your presenting optic neuritis or transverse myelitis or brainstem syndrome, if you think about that first attack, it didn't go on for an hour. It probably went on for days or weeks, maybe even sometimes months. That's because it's driven by inflammation. So this rule is very helpful because you're a thoughtful person and you have a chronic condition, and then your nose itches, and you're going to ask a thoughtful question. Is the itchy nose related to the chronic condition? And that can drive you cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So instead, I want you to say, my nose is itching. Well, how long has it gone on? 2 minutes. Okay, well, that's less than 24 hours, so I don't need to worry about it yet. It also helps you understand when you can reach out to your doctor. So if you have a double vision and that's been going on for a day, please, for the love of all that's holy, call your neurologist. Now, the first thing that we're going to do when we hear that you're having new symptoms or old symptoms that have come back and lasted for longer than a day is we're going to assume that you have an infection. Because if you have a urinary tract infection, upper respiratory tract infection, sinus infection, any infection, it raises your core body temperature even half a degree, and it will short circuit your spinal cord and brain where those areas of damage are. Now, you don't necessarily get like an email that you have an infection. All you know is your leg's numb again, and it's been going on for longer than a day. So when you call the Boster Center and say, hey, I've got this going on, our response is, okay, let's rule out infection. Go to your primary care doctor, get a urinalysis, have them listen to your lungs. Let's make sure that there isn't a bug. And if we find a bug, we give antibiotics, and it brings your core body temperature down and the symptoms go away. Now, that has a very specific name to it, that phenomenon. That's called a pseudo attack, which I just wrote in the chat. Pseudo is a Greek prefix, which means similar to, but it ain't. It's a very real event. Your leg really was numb, but it wasn't caused by new inflammation by an attack. It was old damage that short-circuited because you had an infection. And if you have a new neurological symptom lasting longer than a day and we can't find an infection, we're going to be concerned there's an attack. You need to be examined by your neurologist, and we can discuss giving you steroids or something like steroids to hasten your recovery. Now, if you are on birth control and you get pregnant, then the birth control didn't do a good job, and you're probably going to change birth control pills. If you're on MS medicine and you have a breakthrough attack, then the MS medicine didn't do its best job. And I think it's important that a month after you're treated for your attack, you're seen in clinic so that we can re-examine you and make sure that you've gotten better. And we can make sure that we have a difficult conversation with your disease-modifying therapy. And it's going to sound like one of two things. It's either going to sound like this. You brought my daughter home late once. You said there was a good reason. If you ever do it again, you're not allowed to see her anymore. That was your one mess up. We're done now. Or we may take the approach, hey, we're finished now. All right. In either way, we're going to escalate the medicine, or we're going to put the medicine on warning and punishment. And all of that goes into that bottom left-hand bucket over there. So that's the category of treating attacks. Now, turn your eyes over to the right and look at that bottom right-hand circle where it says treating symptoms. So I now want to talk about treating symptoms. And if I'm honest with you, this is where I feel like the majority of MS neurologists could maybe up their game a little bit. Because oftentimes I'll see someone who has good stabilization of their MS in that they're not having attacks, which is great, and they're not having new spots, which is great, but they're miserable. They don't like their life. They pee their pants sometimes. They're so exhausted they can't keep their head up. They're profoundly anxious or suffer from depression. They have neuropathic pain and spasticity. They have difficulty in the bedroom. In other words, there are chronic symptoms that suck, that are eroding that person's quality of life, even though their MS is stable. And sometimes I hear really frustrating stories where the patient and the doctor are kind of having two different conversations, where the doctor's saying, honey, you're doing great. And the patient's saying, no, I'm doing horrible. And they're saying, no, your MRI, it looks good. And they're saying, yeah, but I can't walk. And they're saying, yeah, but you haven't had an attack. Say, but yeah, I just lost my job. And both can be true. So the problem I find is that that doctor may not be helping with symptoms. Symptoms are things that suck. One of the things that I like to do when I meet a family is I like the patient to write down like the top 5 symptoms in order of yuckiness. Worst, second worst, third worst, etc. And that's the order that we address them in. Because if I slow down your MS, but you're miserable, I didn't do my best job. In order to go home at night and to say I did my best job, I feel like I have to do 2 things. I have to slow your MS down, which I'll get to in a second, and I have to improve your quality of life. And the easiest way to do that is to treat symptoms that suck. I'm going to use my favorite off-color example. So if you are squeamish, if I talk about erections, then you want to leave the chat right away, because I'm going to talk about erections. So it's not a secret. We men are big fans of our erections. And some men with MS develops erectile dysfunction. And if a gentleman with MS develops erectile dysfunction and it bothers him, I give him a little blue after dinner mint called Viagra. Now, if a gentleman with MS has erectile dysfunction and he doesn't care, I don't care. Because in this off-color example, erectile dysfunction doesn't speed up MS. Treating it doesn't slow down MS, but it makes Friday way better. And so that's an example where we would address a quality of life issue, because I think that's super, super important. Now, if you're playing at home, I want you to write down the top 5 symptoms that suck, and I want you to bring that list to your neurologist. So the next time you see your neurologist, say, hey, doc, I made a list of the 5 symptoms that bother me the most. Do you mind if I go over it with you, please? And they should say yes, that they should let you do that. And if they have trouble treating, like let's say you have a symptom, you say, oh, I have this neuropathic pain. And let's say they say something like, I don't know how to treat that, or I don't want to treat that, or something where they're not going to help you. Then I want you to say, okay, please refer me to a specialist that can help with that symptom, because it's really important to me, because it really ruins the quality of my life. So that's that bucket down there. Now, if you notice something, treating an attack and treating a symptom, I'm asking you to do the same thing. I just need you to bring to my attention things that are stinky, and then I'll get very animated and suggest a bunch of things, and then we'll custom tailor what we do to try to help improve your quality of life. Now, we're going to move to the top one, and that's the Big Daddy. Oh, that's really good coffee. So at the top, this is slowing MS down. And any of you that have followed the channel for a while know that I have this corny saying that I want you to be 5 for 5 in your fight against MS, because I can think of 5 things that slow it down, so I want you to do all 5. The 5th one's a medicine. So let's wrap up this discussion simply by going through those 5 things. And I want you to take notes, and then I want you to ask yourself, am I 5 for 5, or am I only 4 for 5? Am I only 3 for 5? So what are the 5 things? Number 1 is to not smoke stuff. So smoking doubles the risk to develop MS, which is a terrifying statistic. And if you have MS, it can speed it up by 50%, which is also a terrifying statistic. But if you quit smoking, you slow it back down. And if you noticed, I said, I don't want you to smoke stuff. I didn't say tobacco, because I don't want you to smoke any stuff. I am a medical marijuana recommender in the state of Ohio, and I have found that cannabis can help some of my patients with symptoms, but I don't want them to light cannabis on fire and create smoke and then suck in the smoke, because that's super pro-inflammatory, the same way that smoking tobacco is pro-inflammatory, and that can speed up your disease. So I don't want you to do that. And in fact, there's a big conversation behind don't smoke stuff. Any cardiovascular risk factor, morbid obesity, hypercholesterolemia, high cholesterol, high lipids, high blood pressure, alcoholism, any of these cardiovascular risk factors can make the arteries in the brain get harder faster. They can make your brain shrink faster, and they can make you get worse faster. So we don't want you to do those things. That's number 1. Number 2 is to exercise as part of your lifestyle, which makes a lot of people go, because when you are an adult and you have a job and you have a family and you have MS, it's really, really hard to exercise. And I recognize that. But if you don't exercise as part of your lifestyle, you're going to end up more disabled at the end of your life. And I don't want that for you. So think about this thought experiment for a second. Let's pretend that I clone you. So we'd have to get a lot of permission from a bunch of different people, but let's just pretend we pull it off. And I clone you, and now there's 2 of you. And I give one of you a treadmill, and I give the other one of you Days of Our Lives TV and chocolate cake, right? And we get back together in like 3 years. So now there's 2 versions of you. One version of you has been on the elliptical and legs are stronger, lost a little weight, cardiovascular, doing really well, balance is a little better. But the other one found the weight that you lost and is a little bit more out of shape, but knows a lot about TV. All right, so there's 2 versions of you. And then you have an attack of right leg weakness. The version of you that had been on the treadmill is limping around the house, working, doing physical therapy, recovering. The other version of you is stuck in a wheelchair. And I'm not going to ask you the rhetorical question, who do you want to be? I would rather point out that all we did was prehabilitate one of you and allow the other one to become deconditioned. And so I need you to not allow yourself to become deconditioned. Now, I recognize that exercising with MS is super hard, and so I want to give you 2 pro tips. But before we do that, I'm thirsty, and you know what that means. It's the MS Water Challenge, yo. When I drink, you drink. Drink up. Whew! That was delicious. I really like that stuff. I'm such a fan of carbonated water. It's weird. Okay, so we were talking about being 5 for 5. The idea overarching is to slow down MS. And we talked about not smoking stuff, and now we're talking about exercise. And the 2 top tips that I want to give you, one is water. Water is magic in multiple sclerosis. In the water, you weigh less. And so if you have a weak leg, maybe so weak that you can't walk on land, you might be able to walk in the water, which allows you to exercise. Spasticity diminishes in the water. I don't know why, but it's true. And if you tend to fall to the left, the water pushes you back to the right. Also, if you're heat sensitive, and a lot of my patients are, the water wicks away the heat by convection. So you can exercise in the pool in ways that you really can't outside the pool. And so I want you to keep that in mind. The second pro tip is to leverage a physical therapy expert, particularly a neurophysical therapist. Because MS makes it hard to exercise, a neuro PT is like the very best coach on the planet. They can watch you do your groove thing and they can say, here's the exercise we need to fix that. Here's the exercise we need to do this. And then they can help you build a home wellness program, and that is your exercise regimen that you do at home. So as we try to be 5 for 5, the second thing is to exercise as part of your lifestyle. Number 3 is to eat smart. And I can't stand it when doctors say dumb stuff like it doesn't matter what you eat, because it does matter what you eat. I've heard doctors at a big academic institution say that it was okay to eat McDonald's because it made no difference. And that's not true. It does make a difference. And this is actually a really, really big topic. So when I start things off, I want you to up your water game. I'm looking for you to approach 100 ounces of water, which is insane. It's a lot of water. And you're not going to do that right away. And even if you can just get up towards 80, I'm feeling really, really good. And the second thing that I want you to do is I want you to, through talking with your doctor, supplement your vitamin D. Now, D3 is better absorbed in the body than D2, so that's what I like to give my patients. And I check a blood level so that I can figure out what level we're at, and I know how much to dose you. Now, beyond that, it gets involved. The topic of diet is a really big one. The topic of nutrition is huge. And if I summarize a lot of different MS diets, there's a theme through almost all of them. And they're all very different, but the theme is whole food, real food, single ingredient food, and avoiding ultra processed foods. So those are things that I want you to keep in mind. And we most certainly can talk more about nutrition. I've got a lot of videos on this channel also which talk about nutrition, but we're wrapping up 5 for 5. So number 4 is mindfulness. It's the daily practice of mindfulness. Now, earlier in this Q&A session, someone asked about stress's impact on MS, and I shared that stress makes MS worse. And I hate it when docs say, remove the stress. but I want you to learn to manage stress better. So I want you to practice a mindful activity every day, 5 to 10 minutes. I've shared with you guys on this channel before that after my morning shower, I sit on the floor of my shower, Indian style, eyes closed, water running, and I go through a breathing exercise. And it's one of the best parts of my day. I started to do it during the pandemic and I've continued to do it. And that's me being mindful. I'm being in the moment. I can't respond to a phone call. I'm in the shower. I'm about to go into my clinic, which is a pretty busy day, and it's just a moment where I can be completely by myself and just focus on my breathing, and it helps me. And I want you to find something like that. Now, it doesn't need to be that. It could be anything. It could be going for a walk. It could be feeding birds. It could be yoga. It could be meditation. But I want you to practice 5 to 10 minutes every day. Now, the fifth thing in being 5 for 5 is to take the most effective disease-modifying therapy that you're comfortable taking and make sure that it's working. And that's a really long sentence that I crafted very, very carefully over about 20 some years. So I'm going to write it down. I want you to take the most effective MS-DMT you're comfortable taking and make sure it's working. All right, so I put that in the chat. And there's really 3 phrases there. So most effective, what does that mean? Well, it means that not all of the MS medicines have the same efficacy. Some of the medicines are better than others. And so I want to pick the most effective medicine. In fact, the way that I think about medicines, I always in my mind rank them based on efficacy. Now that doesn't mean that we always take the top one. I'm just saying that's the way that I prioritize them. So the most effective that you're comfortable with. And this is really key because it's not my body, it's your body. And just because you're eligible for the most effective medicine doesn't mean that you're comfortable taking it. And since you're the one who has to take it, you got to be comfortable with it. And that involves us doing a lot of chit chat and discussion to make sure that we can educate you so that you can determine if you're comfortable with it. The third thing is to make sure that it's working. And that's where you and your neurologist do a lot of work together. So at the Boster Center for MS, we do a lot of things to look for disease activity. We take surveys from patients when they come in. They're called patient-reported outcome measures. They're questionnaires that allow us to identify if something is awry. We examine patients. We run them through what I call the MS Olympics, where we do all the different testing. And we get an OCT, an eye test, which measures the thickness of the back of the eye to tell us whether it's thinning. We get an MRI once a year. We are now increasingly following this MSDA octave test. All of these efforts are trying to figure out if we're finding any evidence of breakthrough. So that is, in a quick nutshell, being 5 for 5. And more broadly, that's kind of like a 10,000-foot view of how at least I like to think of managing MS. And I'll wrap up this didactic lecture. Thank you for allowing me to give it. I hope that you found it useful. Now let's change things up and answer a few more questions. I've changed the scene. This is the purple scene. And let's see what kind of questions we have. I'm scrolling back through trying to find some questions. So this is a great question. Does DMT limit the chance of ending up in a wheelchair? Yes. Yeah, 100% it does. So this question, is vaping as bad as smoking? We don't know. I don't think vaping is probably healthy, but if I had to guess, I think it's less inflammatory than smoking. If you become deconditioned, is it possible to recondition? 100%. Remember how I was saying earlier, if there's a connection, you can strengthen it? That neuroplasticity discussion, that's reconditioning. And if you're not sure how to get back in shape, I want you to meet with a physical therapist. Let them help you. They're really, really good at it. These are great questions. Could being around smoking parents during childhood increase MS later in life? Yes, that's actually been proven. Exposure to secondhand smoke increases an individual's risk to develop MS. What is your vision on MS with negative spinal tap? It's irrelevant. So 90% of people with MS have a positive spinal tap. But if you have a negative spinal tap, you can still have MS. So if it's negative, but you still meet criteria based on the MRIs, based on your examination, based on your history, it doesn't matter. I'm just scrolling up looking for questions, guys. There's 250 of you that have stuck it out with me this long. Thank you for that. That's really, really cool. I've never had a spinal tap. Is it always necessary? No. So there are some places in the world, like for example, I think in Great Britain, they tap almost everyone just as a standard course. In the United States, we don't take that approach typically. I would say that I tap less than 10% of people that I'm working up. There are situations where a spinal tap could make the diagnosis, and those are oftentimes situations where we might need to do it. But I would submit that the vast majority of the time that we do not have that problem at all. All right, let's grab a final question. This is a good question. Ben has had some fantastic questions today. Does Ocrevus permanently eliminate the B cells? No. This is really important to understand. Ocrevus does not permanently reduce B cells for two reasons. Well, one reason. Number one, Ocrevus can't see, it's not able to see the baby B cells, the stem cells. So it can murder the adult cells, but it can't murder the stem cells because it can't see them. So if you take Ocrevus and it makes your cells go down too low, makes your antibodies go down too low, and I've had patients where this has happened, if you stop Ocrevus, it will eventually get better. It'll eventually go back to normal. Now, it might take a really long time. I had one patient, and this is very unusual, but it took him 2 years before all his stuff came back to normal. That's very, very unusual, but it can take a while. So if you stop the medicine and you wait long enough, yes, your cells will return. So no, it's not a permanent change. That's a good question. Now I'm going to wrap up now. My name's Aaron Boster, and this has been our March Ask Me Anything live stream. I'm going to continue to pump out these live streams every month as long as you guys still enjoy them. And I want to thank the 250 of you that stuck around until the end of this chit chat. As always, this is Aaron Boster saying thank you for learning about MS with me. And I'll look forward to seeing you on my next Monday morning video or next month's live stream, or even better yet, at the Boster Center for MS. So be safe, guys, and take care.